أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. And I seek refuge in Allah from Satan the accursed. Greetings everyone, to all my comrades, family, my friends, well-wishers. I'm here addressing you because I have a very grave concern. And that grave concern is not what is about to happen in Trinidad and Tobago, but instead it's what is about to happen in the island of Barbados. Come the 19th of January this month, the year 2022, there's going to be an election in Barbados. This snap election, which was announced by the Prime Minister Mia Mottley, was a surprise, to say the least. Because why would Mia Mottley want to call an election 3 years running, 3 years in a term, when she has, she controls the majority in parliament, and she has the majority support. She has, the popular vote. It's very, very strange that a leader or a prime minister would do such a thing. Why would she want an additional 3 years in power? We can all recall her recent statements indicating that there are serious decisions to be made. What are those decisions? Does it have to do with anything regarding the New World Order that we would have heard Prime Minister here in Trinidad and Tobago talk about? Is Mia Mottley an agent of the globalist elite to plunge this entire Caribbean region into an abyss of no return? Has she been baiting us all this time with her fancy speeches and her laudable performance at the United Nations? My people of Barbados, the globalist elite has clamped down on the use of ivermectin throughout the world. Because the ivermectin is killing the parasites that these injections are putting into your bodies. And once the ivermectin kills the parasites, it pokes at the very structure of their organization, and it destroys it. You disrupt the agenda of the globalist elite when you do that. Just as how the agenda was disrupted when the PDP won the elections in Tobago. So now the PDP is poised to make a difference politically, socially, and economically. So too you, the Beijing people, would have that opportunity on the 19th of January. And I'm promising you, if you all vote out Mia Mottley on the 19th of January, you are going to put a serious spoke, a serious disruption into the agenda of the globalist elite. Mia Mottley is not just an ordinary person. She's been used by the globalist elite to roll out the agenda here in the Caribbean region. And she's doing a marvelous job thus far. And she's moving forward undetected. I am warning you, Bajans, do not fall for that fanciful language, and do not fall for what Mia Mottley may appear to offer as salvation. It's all fake. It's all a make-believe. And if it is she's successful at the polls on the 19th, you are going to see the true colors of that Prime Minister, Mia Mottley. So in order to put a spoke and to prevent the globalist elite from making inroads into the Caribbean region, you need to ensure that Mia Mottley does not win that election on the 19th. She must be voted out. There's no two ways about it. She has to go. And once she's gone, you would have disrupted and you would be successful in disrupting the rollout of the globalist plan in the Caribbean region, giving us the opportunity to regroup and to unite ourselves and push forward our agenda of true unity and salvation for the entire Caribbean region. So we need to keep this in mind. Do not fall for the fanciful language of Mia Mottley. She's baiting you. She is baiting you. And just how a fisherman would lay his snare in the waters to catch his fish, just how a fisherman would bait his hook to catch his fish, so too she is baited and awaiting for you to dive in. The minute you do that, you will regret it. Do not allow Mia Mottley to win that election on the 19th of January. Mia Mottley must go. Let us prevent the globalist elite from continuing the agenda in the Caribbean. Let us take back control of our democracies. Let us take back control of our rights and our freedoms. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. This is the Election Express coming to you every night at 7 p.m. AST. And we, as you know, we start a little earlier so that it gives you time to share, so that, the others, give them time to come on so that we can get down to business. We want to give our candidates as much time as possible. So I want to welcome those already. I'm seeing Jacqueline Aline is here. Hey, Jacqueline, and Monica Ince is on. And I'm seeing Wayne Hoyt. Hi, Wayne. I think Wayne was here last night. And Janelle Brooms. Yes, good night, Janelle. Good night, good night, good night. Hey, everybody. Guys, the reason we're doing this, the reason that I'm doing this is so that our third party candidates will get an opportunity And so we need you. We're coming grassroots. It's about we the people. So I need you to share. In Jamaica, we say share the daylights out of this, right? Share it so that when they come on, that they are going to be heard and be seen. Very important. Hi, Jacqueline. Shelly and Shepherd, hello, 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 everybody. Great, great, great. This is a great time in Barbados. And we have tonight, as we don't want to take up your time because I know you have questions. That's something that somebody suggested, to let the people ask them the questions, right? So ours, normally you have the candidate speaking to the people. So we want you to ask them questions, right? Let's change it up a bit. So you ask the questions, put the questions in the comments, and we'll be able to see them and put them on the screen. So we have with us tonight, from the Beijing Free Party, Mr. Alex Mitchell. And I can see him here in the green room, and just waiting for him to put on his camera and his microphone. Hi, Sonia. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we also have David Roberts from Beijing Free Party as well. And we want to welcome them both. Welcome, Alex. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. Really, really good to see you. I'm waiting on David because I know you guys are on the ball. You are out in the field, and David literally is just coming out of the constituency. So he's getting himself together, and we'll be able to have him on in a moment. But Alex Mitchell, oh my goodness, it's such an honor to have you on. It's been a long time, a really long time.
Well, I only show up by invitation only.
Listen, you know that is loaded. You know that is loaded, Sonia. You know that is loaded. Loaded, loaded, loaded. Guys, please share. Please share and let people know that we're on. Now, Alex Mitchell. Alex Mitchell. Who is Alex Mitchell?
That's a question for me, right?
Yes. Who is Alex Mitchell? You're
The-
putting yourself up there. You're at
Yeah.
St. Michael's South.
Yes,
So
that's
Alex
correct.
Mitchell is not just the founder of Beijing Free Party, but he's also a candidate for St. Michael's South. And I want just to tell us about Alex Mitchell.
Well, Alex Mitchell is a born Barbadian, regardless if people like to call me the American man and feel that, that I'm an outsider or anything like that. I left Barbados in 1970, and I've been traveling around the world with my family and the military. And in 2003, I was asked to help, and that's what I'm doing. And it expanded very big, beyond my wildest imagination. So Alex Mitchell, just a guy, a man that loves justice, like fairness, love the truth, doesn't like corruption, doesn't like conflict of interest. I exercise the things that I know to be true: freedom of information, free speech, transparency, and that's the way I conduct myself on the internet and in public, because people don't understand how it is to be free. And my old good friend, I learned from Violet Beckles. She always say, "Mr. Mitchell, you cannot tell people what to say or speak out of their own mouth." And the only thing that I have to worry about, which I don't have to worry about, is make sure that the words that come out of my mouth are true. And whether I heard it by rumor, whether I lived it, whether it's firsthand, secondhand information, or whether it's facts. And that's what I speak. So therefore, a lot of the things that I speak of may be unbelievable, but it's very, very true. And I challenge anyone, anytime, to anything that I say that I cannot produce what I'm speaking about. So to put myself out here in Barbados, where you hear a lot of different cuss words that you would not normally hear anywhere else about the things that I speak about, and I had to make sure that what I say resonate, and to the fact that people will go back and talk about what I say or what I claim, and then the older people will say, "Well, he's right." And down now it came to a point on Emancipation Day last year when I woke up and the universe was very, very quiet. I was not getting criticism. The people who unfriend me from Facebook for the things I post and say send back their requests to come back in, and I let them back in because they're free to go, they're free to come. So when we call ourselves the Beijing Free Party, that means that we're free. And in order for you to do anything, you have to have your free before you can determine what your freedom is or even your sovereignty. So we have to be free. So, and if you want to be free to stay in slavery or be part of slavery, that is also your choice or your choosing.
Exactly.
Right? So, and I also believe in freedom of the press and freedom of information. And I am an open book. And the only thing people have to worry about me about is the question that they ask. That when I give them the answer, do not get mad at me. And if your information is more credible than mine, I don't have a problem switching from what I got to what you gave me.
Right.
Because we are all seeking the truth. And the truth is more believable than the last 3 years in Barbados with all the news events combined. This is a very, very serious, to the point now that Alex Mitchell have to look out for the entire country of Barbados because our lives are in danger. So in order to have our lives, we must have our life. Our life is the number one concern in Barbados before I get into the corruption or anything else.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm so glad I asked you that question up front, Alex, because we see you on Facebook, we see you in social media, and you're such a warrior. And as you're talking, I'm saying, wow, hearing your background as being a soldier, a
Marine.
Marine, right?
A Marine is different than a soldier.
A Marine, right? Okay. And you know, I could see exactly why you would take these kind of stance against corruption, and you're, you know, very straight, either black or white. And that's when I think of Alex Mitchell, that's what I think of. I think of somebody who is, you know, stands firm on integrity, a seeker of truth. You're just not with anything that's unjust. And it reminds me of myself, actually, and I could see what, you know, exactly why you're such, seem like a soldier. You don't, you
No,
know,
a Marine.
but
I am a
let
Marine.
us,
I'm
you're
on
a
duty.
Marine.
I'm always
Yeah,
been on duty. I'm always
always
been on
on
duty.
duty.
And we have integrity.
Yes, and we need that. We need that, especially in these times. Now, let me ask you. There's a question here from Mr. Hoyt, but we're going to get to this after. And I'm going to ask everybody, put your questions. What do you want to know about Mr. Mitchell? He's presenting himself as a representative for St. Michael South. What do you want to ask him tonight? Right? Just ask the question there. But before I want to, so we can bring out a little more background about you. Why specifically did you get into politics? Why are you running? Why are you a candidate?
Well, I am a candidate because I was asked to be a candidate.
Mm. By
And this
whom?
by
By whom?
by Violet Beckles in 2007. And
Oh.
we waited to see what David Thompson would do with the situation. So I am keeping to what she told me to do: run, Mr. Mitchell, run, because all the truth that I've been speaking has been removed from either the archive, the land registry, the
So
National
let's
Trust books,
pause
and all of
there,
that.
Mr. Mitchell. Let's pause.
Mhm.
So you said you were asked by Violet Beckles to run.
Yes, yes.
In a nutshell, because we don't want it to be about, you know, anything as but, you know, because you see you have a question,
Campaign.
right? Who is Violet Mitchell? Is a relative of yours?
Yes, she's a cousin of mine, which I didn't know until I came back to Barbados, and I did not know until I was helping her. And we both ran into the same cousins, which I didn't know because I was gone for so long. And she handed over her things to me and the rest of the family, and left me as executor and trustee of the estate and part owner. So I have to fight for this because of the corruption in Barbados makes things very hard on the people. And people think that it has nothing to do with them, but it has everything to do with them. And so the thing is, on the campaign trail, I answer any question for about anything that you want. You can ask me anything, I will give you an answer. Sometimes I bring copies of papers so you can see and read and explain everything. I'm not here to talk to people. If you want to answer, or you're smart enough, or you're intelligent, or the only question that we say not ask is a dumb one. There's no stupid question that you can ask me. Every question has an answer, and I have the answer for it that I will give you to make everything clear.
So this question that's here from Mr. Hoyt. Welcome, Mr. Hoyt. Good to have you again. Guys, please share the live. Don't just sit and enjoy it. But share it, and it's a privilege to get the background of Mr. Mitchell, and we see why he is so, he's so militant about his beliefs, and we realize that it's because of his background as a Marine, and in the Army. So it's good to understand that. So what issues are you tackling when you're talking about St. Michael? You want to represent St. Michael's South.
Good. And I'm only gonna talk about St. Michael South.
Yes, thank you.
Good. St. Michael South constituency is very important. It's made up of the Bay Plantation, which is 190 acres, which we have the 1930 deed for it, for root title, to let everybody know who owns and who don't own, and whatever is open belongs to that deed, where we can have the land surveyor survey these spots and make sure that people get land in that area.
Okay, so hold a minute. So you're saying that in St. Michael's South,
yes.
I want to make sure everybody understands, because I'm telling you, this man is a man on a mission. He's very focused, and we want tonight to be able to just unearth everything that he's standing for. What is it that, what are the issues that he's tackling? So you're saying in St. Michael's South,
correct.
There is what is called the Bay Plantation.
Yes, that's 190 acres that was sold to us in 1930 by the owner, John Beckles.
Okay, so let's hold a minute. So 190 acres in the Bay Plantation was sold to Violet Beckles?
No, to Beatrice Henry, her aunt, in 1930.
To Beatrice Henry, okay.
Good.
And yes, continue.
Good. And St. Michael South is made up of two more plantations, which is Britain's Hill Plantation and Barbados Plantation. Bonnets Plantation and Britain's Hill Plantation was sold to Beatrice Henry in 1957, 287 acres. So I have the root title deed for this entire constituency, where I want everyone to don't worry about anything. I want to make sure that the land you have, I will clear title it for you. The land that is a residue after 1930, I will then help you to get a house spot with a deed for that land, where then you can use that deed to get your own water, your own light, your own gas line to your house. So you don't have to use a gas bottle, where then now you can use your own landowner's permission once again to go get an architect to design the piece of property that will, the house that you want, that will fit on that property. Once it's approved by Town and Country, it can be built either by you or by me, because the first thing you need is landowner permission and a clear title deed. To let hold on, there's one more thing. In the records, in the public records of Barbados, if you go to 1913 plantations on the internet and you Google Barbados, you will see a pink map of Barbados. Click the pink map and you will see that there's only 29 plantations that they put up that represent all of St. Michael. But here's the thing, there is no Britain's Hill and there is no Bonnets. So why does the Barbados show any ownership or any records of Britain's Hill and Bonnets Plantation, and I have the deed? And that's not the only plantation that's missing. There's about 8 or 9 plantations missing, but I'm not going to go into that. From St. Michael's, right? So, and that's why there are issues in building, and that's why there's
So Alex, hold a minute. So let me try to make sure I understand what you're saying, because you're saying you're running in St. Michael's South because
correct.
you have the title deed for the land for all of St. Michael's South, because it consists of I'm missing my notes here now, but it consists of 3 plantations.
Correct.
Yes, that were sold to relatives of yours back in the 50s
and the 30s.
and the 30s. Okay.
Correct.
And you are running because you believe that it's very important that people own their own homes.
Correct.
And that they have title deeds to
Correct.
land, which is important, especially in the city, right?
All across Barbados, all across the world, because banks will not give you any loans. That's why even though this government wants 30 and old, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can, and there's more. And in 2018, there was more than $28 billion in the banks in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
None of the 30 and old winners could get a loan from the government.
Mm-hmm.
The government of today could not get any loans from the banks, so they had to go to the IMF and China,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they don't have clear title deed. Because when I came to Barbados, they say in order to have a clear title deed,
Mm-hmm.
you must go back at least 70 years or till the plantation deed.
Mm-hmm.
So we have over 200 plantations that we own in Barbados, going back from 1926 to 1969.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm only dealing with 3,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm only dealing with 3 right now.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
good.
Okay. So let's just summarize. So Mr. Mitchell, Alex Mitchell is a candidate for St. Michael's South, and what he is speaking about, the issue he's tackling, and what he's speaking about, Mr. Hoyt, on the campaign trail is home ownership, owning land. Which is very important because a lot of people in Barbados don't own their own home, and especially in the city. This is very important. So if you're watching from St. Michael's South, this is important for you. Okay. We have another question. Guys, remember, we want you to, this is a good time to ask Mr. Mitchell your question. So there's another question here from Mr. Hart. He says, we were supposed to have started a public consultation on the new constitution. Mr. Mitchell, what are some of the changes you wish to see that will be in the best interest of Barbados and the citizens thereof?
All rights will be in the Constitution if we are involved in the making of it. We already have an outline of the Constitution protecting all rights, not suppression of rights. You have your free, and with your free, you determine your freedom. You determine your freedom, and with that freedom, you will then have your freedom of information, your freedom of speech, your freedom of the press, and all those things. And the Constitution that we are dealing with, hold on a second.
While we wait on that, I'm going to ask Mr. Roberts. I see David Roberts is here.
Yes.
And Mr. Roberts, if you can open your camera and your microphone. And remember that it's important to use Google Chrome if you can. Yes, I think I see something's happening there for him. All right, go. Yes.
Yes. So we have an outline for the Constitution that is not based on fear or threat of people on their rights. The only time that you would have a trespass is if you put your hands on somebody. You understand? But besides that, you have your rights. You have your freedom of speech. But do not trespass. That's the first rule in law where all things start. When you study law, the first thing that you study is trespass against the person, against the self, or whatever. Right? So the thing is, you have all your rights, whether it's United Nations rights, whether it's human rights, whether it's constitutional rights, whether it's God-given rights. All your rights are protected. We are the Beijing Free Party. We are not dealing with slavery. So therefore, we don't want anything dealing with slavery in this Constitution. Right? We don't want no 3/5 person or none of that.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for your answer, Mr. Mitchell. So, apart from home ownership and land, acquiring land, etc.,
Mm.
what else are you planning to do for St. Michael's South?
Well,
Can we have? And
we-
again, I'm going to ask people to ask your questions. Go ahead.
good. What we plan to do for St. Michael's South and the rest of Barbados, we have a plan with the amount of land that we have to build 44,100 homes, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath houses, nothing under 900 square feet with clear title land. I'm just giving you an example. I can take a deed to the bank. They can value, say, the deed for St. Michael's South, but I wouldn't use that on St. Michael's South. I'll use another deed, maybe like Barbados Plantation deed, 1,169 acres. They will value that amount of land. And then they will say this land is worth 40 million, 50 million, 100 million. And we will take that money and we will build these houses. And then we will allow the people to own their homes in St. Michael's South based upon the GDP or what their income is. So if the basic income in Barbados is only $250 bring home, well, we can't charge you $2,000 or $3,000 mortgage. We can do private mortgages. We don't have to depend on the bank. We can do a mortgage at 2%, 1%, 0%, whatever it may be, without all these closing fees, and still give you a deed, but put a lien on it until you pay off that, and then you have it. If
So
every,
you're saying with the land, all this land that you're saying you have the deed for, your plan is to be able to provide affordable homes, affordable housing.
yes, and they will not be government housing. Like, I'm gonna just veer off a little bit. Like in America, if you want to have 2 people live in a room, go for a comfortable room with where you can breathe and don't get sick from the other person when they get sick. Each individual is supposed to have no less than or somewhere around 70 square feet of room per person. So if you do, so you may be looking at most rooms maybe 10 by 12 or 12 by 12. So if you say 12 by 12, that's 144 square feet, where you only need 140 square feet, so that we can have furniture in our rooms. We don't need to open the door and hit the bed with the door, or you can't have a nightstand, or you can't bring in an extra dresser. These government houses in Barbados was also put here by Beatrice Henry with a collaboration with the government. So most of the people that's in government housing across Barbados, even up to Bagatelle and wherever, all up in the Pine, I am the one that has to sign that deed for them to get that home. No other person in Barbados, including the Prime Minister, the Governor General, or even NHC, or we could talk about that later, can sign this deed. The pen, I'm the only one with the pen that can, well, everything black so you can't see my pen, but I am the one with the pen that needs to sign that deed. Me and Motley or anybody can't sign a deed.
Somebody listening to this, listening to you, Mr. Mitchell is saying, I mean, what are you talking? I mean, do you actually have these deeds?
I have well, after Beatrice Henry died, Beatrice Henry left a will to Violet Beckles that was written by Frederick Smith, who also had to call Miss Henry aunt. After she died, Violet got probate, I believe, in June 6th or June 5th of 1986. After she got letters of administration, she took these 200 plus plantation deeds to Richard L. Cheltenham to ascend into her name. So since it's a lot of work, Violet Beckles waited 6 months and went back to Mr. Richard Cheltenham and asked him, how are you going with the ascent from the deeds from Beatrice Henry's name into Violet Beckles' name? Mr. Cheltenham told Violet Beckles that he cannot find these 200 plantation deeds. And then all of a sudden now, he turns up with Carl Williams talking about moving land to please. And all of a sudden, Violet Beckles' estate is in the hands of Carl Williams, being purported all over the world that he's the biggest landowner in Barbados. So even where Mr. Carl Williams is supposed to have lived at Arthur Seat Plantation, we bought that plantation in 1936 from a man called John A. Williams. C.O. Williams was only about 4 years old at the time. So the information that they put out there is wrong, and that's why we can't get the $160 million to finish 4 seasons because we have the plantation deed for BlackRock for 1952. This is the reason that we can't get the $60 million for the city to divide up among the people in the city to give them $20,000 apiece to fix their home to get that $60 million from the IDB. This is the reason we cannot get the $40 million from Walker's plantation that we own 1,400 acres to build a water dam, because they keep saying that Barbados is a water scarce country, to get that $40 million from Canada, out of the money that I'm talking about. This is the reason that the Hyatt cannot be built, because I already contacted Hyatt that if they don't make sure that they have a clear title deed and they do build it on the land that they have down there on Bay Street, that I will claim it. I contacted Hyatt. So every election, the most powerful man in Barbados was Fundle Stewart, and he tried to use the building of Hyatt to get votes, and it's not there. 3 or 4 years later, me and Motley still cannot start Hyatt with MAM, and MAM cannot get together, even though they took Ms. Ram's property and put up Hyatt, because they have to get by me. So the thing is, I have the root title deed. Everything comes off the root title. You understand me? And even in America, when I buy real estate, because I did real estate in America, a lot of the properties in America goes back to 1913 to have a clear title deed, meaning that there's no judgment, there's no lien, there's no queries about it, there's nothing. So everything has to be clear, because one of the things we don't have in Barbados is title insurance. With all of the fraud in Barbados with real estate, no title company can survive, because 90% of the property in Barbados involved in fraud. So even if I say this, National Housing is another missing plantation deed that's off the records that you can't find anywhere, and that is called the Garden Plantation. The Garden Plantation, and every plantation in Barbados comes from a great house. The great house was knocked down on Country Road, and then what did they do? They built NHC right where the great house was, and the pictures is inside NHC, right? And there's no record for that, and that's 440 acres that we also bought. So the thing is, how can you have property? That's like saying America is 50 states, but when I Google, I only find 35. What happened to the other 15?
Well, this is, I'm listening to you, and it's really this. I make films, and it sounds like a movie.
Please make it. Please make it. I have a lot of documents and a lot of names involved in it, because there are many wealthy families in Barbados. The Griffith family, the Rouse, and all of them.
Hold a minute. There was a case where, and I'm trying to remember it. That was only a couple months ago, where there was an English woman who actually won a case here in Barbados.
Yes.
Where she got back all the land. So, somebody listening to you might say that seemed a little far-fetched. Alex, do you remember that case? We were only discussing it.
Yes.
I forgot about. I forgot which land it was, but it was a lot of land. And the government had to had to pay a lot of money, and this was plantations that the government of Barbados that they took from her, and so it is okay, all right. It's in the Sunday Sun, guys, because
okay.
Hold it up, please. U.S. $260 million judgment. For this woman. So
okay, and I'm going to show you right here. If you give me 2 seconds, I will go into the newspaper, and it says it right here, if you can see it, on page 4A, and I'm going to just read the short part of it if you give me a second.
Yes.
It says, Kathleen Davis and others, estate of Dean, the plaintiffs, ownership of 1/7 of the shares of Kingston Estate Limited, a Barbados company, a Barbados corporation with land holdings and business holdings that was at one time valued at $1 billion US. Witness testimony and documentation considered by the jury, including evidence of showing threats, harassment, and violence against the Knox family members and their witnesses, fraud, fabrication of evidence, obstruction of justice, bribery of police, and other corrupt activities by businesses, lawyers, politicians, government officials, police, and others, including judicial officials. Also in 4 other countries with the purpose to steal, defraud, deny the plaintiffs of their proper value of their shares. The jury, wait. I got 2 more sentences. The jury also heard evidence that some of the stolen funds were transferred and money laundered internationally between the UK and Barbados and other offshore havens. I will stop there. But that was in the Sunday Sun.
Put it up again for me, because
October 24th, 2021.
Wow, 2021. So that's a couple months ago, and somebody here is saying Curtis Dale is saying that lady won a case in Florida a few months ago. That's the same case. And he went on to say, Curtis is saying that the judge in that case exposed the corruption in Barbados.
Good. Hold on. Now watch. This is Violet Beckles. My land, 200 sites. Okay. And this newspaper is from Friday, November 12th, 2004. Right? And before that month, in October, it says, by deed alone, the High Court moved against land fraud. They only said it on the paper, but they never moved against land fraud because the key person involved in that was the Attorney General back in 1997. That was David Simmons, who then became Chief Justice, who then backed up the whole system by keep putting it back. So, like I said, when I go out on the street and people want to ask or challenge me, it doesn't matter. Please ask the question. Please ask the question.
Well, thank you for that clarity. Alex. There's a question here from Mr. Hoyt. It's saying, will the homes in St. Michael South that you're planning to build, if you're just watching, this is Alex Mitchell, and he is a candidate for St. Michael South. And one of the things that he's thinking of, that he wants to do, is to provide homes, low income for low income residents.
Low income houses, but the houses are not low income. They'll be able to withstand. They will be able to withstand earthquakes above 5.0 and hurricanes of 5.0 or higher, depending on the roof. If you have a cement or concrete roof, you could go up to approximately 160 miles an hour wind. If you want the conventional roof, you may be able to go up to maybe 120, 140, depending on where it's located when the winds come. Because you cannot have an economy if everybody's sick or dead. You must be alive. So, and the houses will be regular houses. You won't be able to drive by and say, oh, that's a shanty, or that's a squatter in a wood house, or that's a government housing, or that's an NHC. Nobody can point because it'll be a regular house, right? And
let me ask you something. Will they be single units or multi-story, Mr. Mitchell?
Well, in the low-lying areas, we will have upstairs and downstairs in case of flooding. On the higher levels, maybe British-Solo and Barbados, they can have upstairs, downstairs, or townhouses. It's whatever they want. I'm not going to be living in them. They're going to be living in them. We will have different, any designer can bring me whatever designs they want, and the people can pick the design that they want to live in. This is not government housing. This is regular housing for people. And the reason we want to start off with a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, because if we started small, families grow. So if you already got a head start, they don't have to go and get loans and build one time, and then you have 3 bedrooms and you're done, right? So we have to take care of the most needed, women with children, families that are struggling. We're not trying to kill anybody, because we built 44,100 homes across Barbados, and I only collect $500 a month rent or mortgage or whatever it may come out to be. I only need one belly full, money piling up in the bank. And let me be clear. Let me be very, very clear. All right. This plan that I'm talking about was developed back in the days, because Beatrice Henry was born in 1892. She died December 13th, 1985 at the age of 93. Violet Beckles was born in 1918, and she died August 23rd, 2010. The plan she got was from her aunt, which already started it before she died. What I'm talking about also came from Violet Beckles. I take my orders from the dead. Everyone that interfered or got into my way of these two great women, heroes of Barbados, right, has either passed away or something has happened to them, but I'm not going to say. Okay? But what I'm saying is, I do not want these two people to call me to the grave until my mission is over. I am a United States Marine, gunnery sergeant for 20 years. I have never failed a mission yet. I will stay on the mission until I'm dead. By the time we are done, we want St. Michael South to be the proof. So that is why, even though they say that, do you have a manifesto? Manifestos don't work in Barbados. Nothing that they talk in their manifestos has not yet manifested. So therefore, we have the word on the top of our so-called manifesto called an affidavit. The affidavit is the highest form of law. And the only way that this affidavit cannot be carried out is if we get in the House, whether we get 1 seat, 2 seat, we will put this proposal out, and for it to be voted down by the BLP, the DLP, the UPP, PDP, or whoever, all right? Because our coalition, the other parties that agrees with me, whether we are together in spirit or in law, agrees that something has to be done. So the thing is, when I hear a problem, I don't want to hear the nagging anymore. I know the problem. We work on a solution for that problem, and then we execute until we complete the mission. So the thing is, if I have the opportunity, and the rest of my Beijing Free supporters and our other coalition, we will start those houses because people need to invest. All right? People need to invest in what I am saying in order to get a return. That's it.
So hold a minute. So you in order to build these homes, you are depending on people to invest, or is it? No.
All they're investing is they trust in me, Beijing Free Party, and our coalition. That's it. That's the investment. I mean, if you're going to take money for a vote, take the money, but still vote for us. Because all they're going to do is pass something to take the money back after the election. Let's take the money. It's your money that they took from your pockets. Okay? So
I want to make sure that this is clear. So because someone hearing you talking that you're going to build 44,100 homes are going to be built, right?
But we will.
Where you're going to get the money from? So you're going to use the title deed from one
plantation.
To one plantation to
let the bank hold it. Yes.
And somebody else might ask a question because it was going in my head, but you answered it. Why are you doing this? And you're saying that this is something that was started by Beatrice Henry, and then
carried out by Violet Beckles and carried out by me. Now here it is. Here it is. On the debate for St. George North, they asked me that question before they start freezing the button and killing my microphone. And they asked me what is the most pressing issue in Barbados right now. And I said housing. I did not know that from anybody's information. I knew it from my own private information. After I did the election, about 2 months after, a document showed up, which I believe was called a green paper, to show that back in 1999, the Attorney General at the time was David Simmons, and the green paper said housing. So they knew since 1999 that the #1 issue concerning Barbados before Corona was housing, and they made sure that they did not complete what the green paper said for them to do. So it's like you wanted to be a baker, and I said you need pans, butter, milk, and everything. I got the report, and then I make sure that you don't get those elements. But what we will do is have you squatting, we will have you renting, we have you in UDC housing, you have you in NAC housing. And that's why they came up with the VAT. VAT came out in 1997 to move people from land rent to land ownership. And that process was only supposed to last for 18 months. It's been over 24 years. Where is 15% VAT? At 24 years, gone. So between 1997 and now, land was selling for about $7.50 a square foot. Then it went into 15, then it went up to 20, then 25, then 30, and some places it's 60. So now the people now have lost anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000 in home equity value. You cannot get rich by just working 9 to 5 and paying your bills. You must own land. Every person that knows you, that you know that has money, have land. So I want the people of Barbados to have their land, because right now the lawyers and the ministers are stealing the land from the people and sell overseas by these real estate agencies in Barbados. I'm not going to get into that unless you want to do a show and I can put it straight. But we want to show people, because when I ran in St. Michael's South in 2013. They called me all kind of names and this and that. We ran again in 2018, and they said, well, you're not going to win this time. Maybe next time. We're going to give this person that's there now a chance. But if not, we're going to get you next time. And I said, okay. And what I told him was, in 2013, take a picture of your neighborhood and come back in 2018, and it looked the same. I said, good. Now in 2018, take a picture of your neighborhood, and it looked the same. So you don't have any change. Because when I was talking to people, do you want change or swap? They would say, we want swap. Okay, you got swap. How do you feel? Do you want change? Do you want the truth? Because only title deeds can take money out of a bank, which now after a few years, you get equity, or you retire, you can sell that property for $200,000 more. You can use it for education. You can use it to expand your house and put on a rental unit. You can buy a new taxi, a new truck, a new bus. You can send your children to school. You can go on vacation. You can use it for retirement. That's what real estate brings you. I don't want anybody to run out. I understand, and we know, and we love the people of Barbados. I pull myself up from America with my real estate and my family, okay? And I come down here to live in these conditions because I understand how the world works. So when I heard that China and Russia closed their borders with China, I said to myself, let me look for a ticket. And I entered into Barbados again, planned that way from January 13th, 2012. And I've been here ever since. I did not leave. This is the longest I have ever stayed in one location in the last 40 years.
Wow.
You understand me? So by me having this experience and being here, because Beijing was saying, well, you was up in America living your life while we was in this pain and suffering. Well, I'm here in it with you. And I want to make sure, based on the information that I have, that you stay alive. So before the present issue of the houses right now, the present issue is your life. You have to live.
So Alex, let me ask you something. You know, I know you're following Beatrice Henry and Violet Beckles. What did they build homes for those with low income?
As far
history of that?
Yes, go to any government housing. Whether it's the Pine, whether it's Bagatelle, wherever you see government housing, that's Beatrice Henry. Remember, as far as I could find, and I would welcome any historian to give me additional information, but in 1966, when we got independence, the only thing that I can find, because they corrupted the records, is that the government of England handed over the government building on Bay Street. So the question is, if based upon Dugan sitting in the House of Assembly saying that the Barbados government has $3.6 billion in assets, how did they came in possession of all of these properties? Where are the title deeds? And with all these land transactions all through Barbados and different plantations allegedly owned by Carl Williams, where are these deeds recorded? Where is it for public record?
Take it easy, Alex, because I want our listeners to understand what your motivation is for running for St. Michael's South and what you intend to do. So you are saying that Beatrice Henry, who's a relative of yours, that she started building homes for those Barbadians with low income, right?
In collaboration with the government of the day.
In collaboration with the government of Barbados. So now we understand that. And then after she passed, Violet Beckles,
Yes.
another relative, continued.
Yes, tried to until she was interrupted by Richard Chellingham. Yes.
So she tried to, but she did to. Okay, so she tried to, so she didn't get to. She didn't get to work
on that massive scale. But privately, she fixed up what she had and tried to rent those out. And lawyers eventually stole those from her bit by bit with fraudulent paperwork.
And now she's asked you.
Yes.
To run. She's asked you to run.
She asked me to run. She said, run, Mr. Mitchell, run. You will get in. Just keep running until you get in. And then when we use St. Michael South as a project and the others of our coalition parties, we will start in those areas effective immediately. Because then the government would have to prove us by their records that we are incorrect. So we did the same thing that the archives did. We used wills, historical archivable documents, information, all kinds of things, the same thing they use. And we have all this information. So the thing is, I welcome anybody in law in Barbados to challenge me on what I'm saying. Nothing worse than a challenge.
Well, you have a question here. And I'm so sorry I'm not going to get, it doesn't seem that Mr. Roberts is getting on tonight, who is also from your party. The question is, why did the PM claim that Hyatt will start this year in this second half?
I understand the question. The same reason why Fundle Store said it will start for him to get votes. Mia said it will start. Everything will start right before votes. And by the time you're done, none of the people in your constituency and most of the people in Barbados don't even get the jobs or the work to build that. It's all outside contractors from the major contractors in Barbados, and all we get is the little work. Good. And even after they finish building, they always seem to bring in people through the immigration department to do the work, and you can't even find people that look like you to give Barbadian or Bajan hospitality to the tourists, right? So nobody is stopping, 30 and what? You didn't have to wait now. You could have built it a year in 2018, and Fundle Store could have built it too, but he can get it off the ground. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you want international support, you have to prove clear title deed. That's why Four Seasons can't move. That was a Ponzi scheme. The government, CLECO, most of the unions in Barbados, they're all running a Ponzi. If you look at their possessions, and you do a clear title, you will see that most of their possessions, or what they call what they own, is in relation to land and real estate, don't belong to them. They have to get past me in order to say they got clear title. You understand what I'm saying to you? I am at least half of Barbados walking archives that was removed. You can't even.
We have a question here. And I think it's important. My belief is to give everybody their time and to let them express themselves. And
Good.
Because I learned, honestly, Mr. Mitchell, I learned so much about you today, this evening. I learned what's your motivation, what's behind what you do, because you seem to be so, you're focused on this all the time. Everything you post is about this. It's a,
Stella, I love you. Stella, I love you, and I welcome the question. Keep it coming. You want to ask the question, or you guys want me to answer it?
She says, right, why did you really decide to run for politics? She probably came on a little late. Is it to
okay. No. Okay, I can answer her question because she's here. The real reason why I decided to run, because I went to the prime ministers, many of them, including Mia Motley while she was Attorney General, David Simmons in 1997, Mia Motley in 2000 and 2001 with Owen Arthur. We went to what's his name? David Thompson, before he passed away. He put the fraud squad on it with Station Sergeant White. We gave all the information. Once the news got out, they started news blocking wherever I went. I tried to get the information out in Guyana, St. Vincent, Jamaica, New York, England, and none of the news will carry it or even investigate it or look into it, because we will know about that later. I'm not going to get to that part right now, but they're all connected to the media to block it. Okay, so when I saw the opportunity to run, and in the Constitution of Barbados, we allowed political free speech, we allowed freedom of information, and we could say what we need to say on the campaign trail. So for $250, I cannot beat the coverage that I get for $250 instead of putting a small article in the newspaper and my money is gone. So now I can bypass all of their corruption. I'm using the Constitution of Barbados to bring it to the people, and this is a bigger platform where they cannot interfere with me, even though they try many times, and I can even explain that. I cannot see you, Marcia. Are you still there? I don't know if you all can still hear me or not. So if anybody can still hear me, I'm running for the people, for them to get their housing where they can have some type of future for their families. All right. I cannot live on every piece of land or every house in Barbados. It cannot happen. All right. I am here to do their work, which is my work, because I also dealt with real estate in America, where I also had housing for the people up there that I rent. So I've been involved in real estate from 1986. Okay, that's how I got involved in real estate in America. So I know the ropes, so to say, of real estate and value for everybody. So this is the only way to get it done. It was supposed to happen under the UDC. It did not happen under the UDC because the VAT money disappeared. And most of the politicians felt that the amount of money that was supposed to go to Violet Beckles was too much for a black woman. And they figured that they can use the money and land better to serve themselves versus the people of Barbados. They do not want you to own anything. They just want you to be squatters, renters, UDC, and NAC, and they'll put you up in block housing while foreigners can come to Barbados and have 2 or 3 or 10 acres of land, and we all crammed up like project buildings in America. And they can't build the buildings too high, and you cannot lift too high because the fire trucks cannot reach that high. So we don't want people dying. When I grew up in Barbados, I used to run through the front door with my bare feet and run through the back door with my bare feet. I did not fly down to the 3rd floor or 5th floor or all these steps, because we have to deal with the land. We have to grow our food from the land. Everything that we need comes from the land, because we do not walk on water, right? So when it comes nighttime, we need a place that we can stop where nobody cannot move us. They cannot move us.
Hold a second. There's another question, and we only have we only have another 5 minutes. So there's a question. I want you to give me a short answer to this particular question, Alex, and then I want you to just tell me a little bit more about the other parties, the other candidates that are running. All right. So it's asking you to has any government official or agency or anyone like lawyers, etc., publicly disputed your claims?
No. I like I said, in August 9th of 2009, a letter came to Violet Beckles' house, and Station Sergeant Mark White of the Barbados Fraud Squad showed up. She called me because I was living in St. James at the time, and on the 10th, the next day, we went to District A Police Station for the last 3 weeks, giving information. So the police right now, the Fraud Squad, have over between 15 and 20 pounds of documentation. I signed a 22-page statement of fact of findings, which is all recorded on 22 pages. Violet Beckles signed an 18-page complaint against Chattelham Cow and the others, right? Or whoever she said at that particular time, of what happened and who did what to her. 40 pages Station Sergeant Mark White said that the investigation would take 5 years. 5 years from 2009, well, we're way past that. And they will not go after the perpetrators and stop this fraud. So this started under the BLP, and it was covered up by the DLP. And that's what they're doing right now. That's why I call them the BBDLP government. All right? There are many thousandaires and millionaires in Barbados. And right now, I will just say that there is a political leader right now who is involved in another dirty land fraud scam. I will not talk about it because I'm waiting on it. And I don't have permission to talk about it until I have facts. Right? But I know who they are. So what I'm saying is that the Ponzi never ended. And the biggest industry in Barbados for tourism is pulling in the tourists and robbing them. Because before I knew anything about this, I got involved in it. My mother sold 2 houses in Florida, came to Barbados, and she also got robbed. She went back to Florida and got additional property to continue her life. So 3 of my family members was robbed before we even knew that the Barbados government and CLECO and many businesses in Barbados is running a Ponzi. All Ponzi's collapsed about 30 years after. That's why you see Madoff and Stanford. So that's why I said that what we're going to do once we get in is run a audit on all government departments. Under the BLP, they allegedly removed $400 million that we can't find. Then the DLP came in and they allegedly took about 397 million, 3 million less. But then there's still another 200 million that's accounted for based on the report. So now that is 1 billion. Boom. Nobody's paid it back. That came probably from the VAT that was supposed to go to the real estate.
Because of time, you have to come back. We have to get you back.
Lord, I got an invite.
Yeah.
Lord, you invite me. Lord, you give me an invite. I'm showing up. I don't go where I'm not welcome.
No. Let me ask you in this few minutes that we have 2 minutes. I want to ask you, Mr. Mitchell, tell us about how many candidates do you have in Beijing Free Party?
Right now, including myself, we have 4 because of the short time, and a lot of people spent most of their money and they didn't have the $250 to pay. We have 3 members overseas. With the short period, they did not have time to get a plane ticket and get through quarantine to get to nomination the following Monday. All right. So this election is not fair for the public of Barbados to prepare themselves to participate in any matter. So
Where's St. Michael South? Where are the other 3?
Good. We have Alex Mitchell, me in St. Michael South. We have David Roberts in St. Michael West Central. We have Roy Turney in St. Michael Northeast. We have Jeanette Eiffel in Christchurch East Central. And then we have Solutions Barbados. We have the other parts of that, which is the Barbados Sovereignty Party. So these 4 parties with Mr. Scantleberry, these 4 parties that is making up another coalition. The other one is called himself the Alliance, so we don't want to get any confusion. This coalition,
it's a coalition, yes.
This coalition, these unified parties, we are working together for the benefit of Barbados. But so, I may say things that they will not say, and they will say things that I will not disagree with, because I agree with everything they're saying, but I'm the person that is in charge of this. So if they vote for this coalition, we will start housing almost immediately. Hopefully,
you're in charge of the housing, because that is somebody
here. And we already have an engineer in Mr. Grenville Phillips, so he will be able to assure the same thing that he offered in St. Michael and St. George North. He can make sure that these houses can withstand the hurricanes that I'm talking about and the earthquakes that I'm talking about with the system that we plan on use. So we have a full team that is ready to go. Because we cannot obstruct the people.
Right. So you are, as Princess Stella put it, and that's what I learned tonight to Princess Stella, that this man is on a mission to resurrect the dream of Beatrice Henry
and Violet Beckles.
And Violet Beckles, and they work together with the government to provide low-income housing. But
no, we're not doing low-income housing. We're doing housing. We don't want nobody pointing at your house and say this and that, right? It's going to be a regular house. There may be 4 or 5 different designs that you can pick from that we will build. And then as far as I'm concerned, nobody's going to pay more than $750 a month for a mortgage or rent for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath wall house with gas and electric running. So St. Michael South will be the ideal place, and the rest of our coalition. And all we can say is, if we win this election or we get enough seats to do what we need to do, and we can do it full order so we can correct our records and let it be known public to the banking community, please, the other constituencies that did not vote for this coalition, please do not try to move in, because we already know who lived there. We don't want all of Barbados jumping into our coalition neighborhood trying to get a free housing.
Right.
All right? But if we are the government, we can do these 44,000 houses at one time. That means
someone said here, where would you get the money from? So
we went through that already.
Costello, he's going to use the deed, he's saying, from the other
plantations as collateral to secure the building. And plus, remember, the VAT money is still there that they keep taking, because once everybody gets a deed for their property, guess what happens to the VAT? It disappears. No 15% VAT, because that was the arrangement and agreement in 1997. The 2% needs to go. The 2% needs to go because the garbage trucks is already on the road. Yeah. But it's still there.
So he has deeds, as Wayne Hoyt is saying. He has deeds that could get him loans from the bank. And as someone pointed out, you have been saying this for a while, and nobody has publicly
because they can't. That's right. That's right.
Okay, but listen, thank you so much for coming, and I wish you all the very best, along with everybody else in the Beijing Free Party and the coalition. We wish you all the very best, and this is the place for you, guys. This is the place for all of our third-party candidates. This is where you can come and share your thoughts, share what's on your heart, what do you plan to do. This is where, and we're so happy to have had you, Mr. Mitchell, and God bless you. See you next time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yes. Wow, that was very, very insightful. What are your thoughts about that, guys? Yeah, interesting conversation. It's a really interesting conversation, and we really need some investigation in this. Very, very important investigation needs to happen in this, and this is what he is. This is its basis for running, and it seems like it would give him a lot of joy to see people in St. Michael South with proper housing, and that is wonderful. Well, I told you we're going to have some other candidates are going to be here, and I'm seeing in the green room, Mr. Halligan is here, and I'm hoping that Miss Eastman, that she comes on as well, and they are from APP, all right, the new party that is formed, right? And yes, I'm seeing that, Mr. Hoyt, that when we quiz, so I want you to have all the questions. Have the questions for Mr. Halligan as he gets ready to come on. And if Miss Lynette Eastman is on, have questions to them. Normally, as I said, someone pointed it out last night, they are speaking to us. No, we want to, this is the opportunity to ask them the questions, all right? So without any further ado, let me just welcome Mr. Everton Halligan. And, I put your hero, your Everton. What is your correct name? Welcome.
Well, thank you, Marcia. I hope you and the listening audience are doing very well. My mother christened me Everton Halligan, and that was after the cricketer Everton Weekes, I think it is.
Yes.
But since then, I've been on my own life journey. And in that life journey, I've been through many different transitions. And I was given another name as Heru. Heru is an ancient Egyptian name. And it speaks to one who is a healer, one who seeks to create unification, one who fights against evil. You can say that Heru is basically the same person as Jesus in Judeo-Christian theology.
Understood.
Right, but
Understood.
this is basically out of ancient Egyptian philosophy. So that's where you get the Heru from.
Yes, yes. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Because, I was writing the name. I'm like, Everton Hero. What is the name? So that's good. And all of this, I'm sure this is part of presenting you to
Mhm.
Barbados, so they understand the history. I mean, that's really really wonderful. And you are involved in herbal medicine, aren't you?
Yeah, that's my life journey. So I came into the whole alternative or natural health
Mm-hmm,
industry for trying to take care of my own health challenges. I
mm-hmm,
basically had bad allergies and sinus problem, severely overweight. Good night, Doris. And so, in the process of trying to figure out how to fix these challenges, I came across quite a bit of information, started studying, and
mm-hmm,
then I didn't pursue the whole career in the field of natural health because truly I wanted to help people because I was helped. So
right. Ah.
and if you give me a chance to kind of build on this. So while living in the US, I left Barbados and went to the US, and I was really trying to get rid of the allergies and the sinuses and stuff. I stumbled upon a bookstore, started doing quite a bit of research and reading, and was introduced not only just to health from a natural perspective, but introduced to African history and culture in a way in which I never was introduced to it in Barbados, but in
Mm-hmm,
a way in which it filled the curiosity. And from
mm-hmm,
that curiosity, I wanted to bring that information to Barbados because I
mm-hmm,
grew up in communities and villages in Barbados, and I never had access to the information about who we were before slavery, about who we were as a people, the great things that we would have created, the civilizations that we built that existed in peace and harmony and
mm-hmm.
had all of these different systems that we use to govern our existence. And so I started building an organization where I would pay people like professors and lecturers and authors to come to Barbados. And they would come to Barbados to offer themselves to do these educational forums in Barbados. And that's something that I would do twice yearly while I was living in Barbados. At that time, I didn't have any children and I didn't have any major responsibilities. And my only thing I wanted to do was to make sure that young people in Barbados had access to information that I didn't have access to when I was living in Barbados. So I
Mhm.
started traveling with these speakers, Dr. Lila Africa, Ashwa Kwesi, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James
Mm.
Small, Queen Afua. So all of these different speakers, then I would have gone to meet and say to them, I really need to get you to Barbados because we have a community in Barbados that really need to get more of this information so that they can better grow and develop as a people. And so we would come to Barbados and we'd rent places like the Steel Shed, different schools, because we would take these health education sessions right across Barbados, as far as St. James, St. Joseph, St. Philip, and we would just have all of these different educational forums. And so that has been my journey into community work, where as a young man, I had no responsibilities. I was making lots of money, and I took that money and spent it on bringing lecturers and education and books and things to Barbados to help move and evolve the community. So a lot of
Wow.
people who are talking about Dr. Sebi now, I was one of the first people who brought a lot of the information about Dr. Sebi to Barbados. A lot
Mhm.
of his videos and stuff, and start disseminating a lot of those health lectures and speakers about African history and culture. That was the work that I was heavily invested in terms of building my communities in Barbados, giving a
Mhm.
sense of worth, a sense of value to the youth and to people in Barbados so they can connect to something that's very significant to help us become greater than what people think we can become.
Wow. Everton. I mean, this is. I'm like, I'm listening to this, and like, I mean, I didn't know anything like this. I see
Right.
you put out your stuff, and that the different products, and I know of people within COVID who said that, what, I went to Everton and he helped me, or Everton helped my family recover from COVID,
Hmm.
and using all alternative treatments. And I think it's important for us. A show like this is very, very important because we get a chance to know you and realize that little in Jamaica we say, hurry come, hurry come, hurry come up. You didn't just
Hurry, come
appear.
up. No, no, it's been a lot of love and hard work over the
Yeah.
years.
In
And
Barbados, in what would you say? I say in Jamaica, hurry, come up. What you say?
mhm.
What do you say?
We in a Johnny come lately. I ain't a
Johnny
Johnny
come
come
lately.
lately.
Oh, you're not a no, he's not a guys. He's not a Johnny come lately, and that's
Yeah, been
listening.
doing this work for
You've been
years.
doing community work and
Mhm. Yeah,
education and you spending your own money,
yeah,
and
yeah.
making those trips and trying to change the society and the thinking of the people. So
Yep.
being, but deciding that you're going to be a candidate and be a politician is it was like the next step, right?
Yeah, I think my grandmother at her 100th birthday, when the governor general then came to the house, and I had to do a speech, while I was there, the vote of thanks and stuff. And he said to me, one day you're going to make a really good politician. I wish I could remember his name right now. He was the governor general. I think he passed away, but that even then at that time I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested until I really met with Lynette Eastman. She was the one who truly inspired me to take that next leap. And it was based on the frustration that I had. I actually said I wasn't going to vote anymore. This was prior to the 2018 elections. I thought, you know what, this is it. I'm done. I can't see any difference. I remember literally trying to speak to candidates when they were coming through to get a sense of what their plans were for community, what their plans were for the youth, and I felt always felt empty, almost like there was not enough depth. And
Mm.
in that process, that concern, I knew that they were not equipped to offer the community what the community needs. Not to say that they weren't good people or
Mhm.
had great intentions, but the party system of politics is such that it actually, in some instances, can do a great disservice to the people because it's more of a party-driven apparatus than a
Mhm.
person-driven apparatus, and people are disillusioned that they're voting for a government, and to the point where they need to recognize that first you vote for your representative, so you need
Mhm.
to figure out what is it that representative is going to bring to the constituency.
Mhm.
So when I went to meet Lynette Eastman at a candidate launch prior to the last elections, I had a good conversation with her, quite humble, quite informative. She actually shook me up a bit because I had some perspectives about politicians and politics that
Yes.
really needed to be shaped, right? Because it's one thing to be upset about what's not happening, but
Mhm.
not to recognize what have happened is another ball game. So Lynette
Mhm.
shook me up and she made me know the importance of actually engaging in active politics. And it made sense to me,
Mhm.
and it moved me from the state of complaining to the state of being active. Okay, so
Wow.
then after that, I decided, oh, you know what, I'll do this. And I said, well, you know what, Lynette, I'll work in the background until the next election. She said, no, use this elections as the opportunity to understand what is happening, how it
Yes.
happens, the
Yes.
kind of work you have to put in. And so that's what I did. And that's when I ran. Are you there?
Yes, I'm right here. Yes, hearing
Okay.
you loud
All
and
right.
clear.
That's when I ran for the last elections
Mhm.
for St. George North.
Okay.
So now I'm actually in the St. George South constituency,
Mhm.
hoping to capture the seat in St. George South constituency, which is the constituency I lived in, I was born and raised in, and I still live in,
Mm.
um, because that's where I first encountered the narrative of politicians. And I'll give you that story. A young man into sports, a lot of youth activities, a lot of activities in the community. We always had to play with volleyball nets that had holes in it, and always had to find ways to
Mhm.
make to raise money, to buy nets, to buy balls, to buy soccer balls, to buy things for us to be engaged. And I
Mhm.
always was the one who would end up writing the letters for seeking sponsorship along with some of the older members of the community. And
Mhm.
so in that, I remember being told at some point by one of the candidates at that time, or actually the MP who was the incumbent running again, saying that he had the floodlights for our hard court under his bed. He had already gotten the floodlights for our hard court under the bed. Now, this was dear to me. It was volleyball. I was dear to that sport. I really loved it. But of course, if you don't have the facilities, you could only play for a certain time because you don't have any lights. And then if you're training to be professional, or if you're training to improve your skills, then you can't stay in the community and do that. You have to venture into another community that has lights and have the hard court so you can develop on your skills. And so I remember when he said that, and year after year, I was patiently waiting for that hard court. And I think it actually broke my heart a bit, to be quite honest. It was like opportunities that were not being nurtured. And so I always remember that, and I always resented him for that, because that was when I was 13, 14, 15. And I was naive to think that this man actually had the lights under his bed. And this is 35 years later, and we still don't have a hard court in this community that we live in. We still don't have those floodlights. And we still, at this point, the young people who grew up in this community for the last 15, 20 years, they didn't realize that this community produced volleyball teams, soccer teams, cultural groups, etc., because we don't have the facilities to accommodate this. So a few years ago, I would have started moving the furniture out of my house and pushing it into the bedrooms so that the young people in the community can come over and have dance class, have drum class, and have martial art class. So
I love this. Hold a minute. I'm thinking, because when I came to Barbados, I run an art school. And they will tell you, the other one came to my house the other day, one of them, and they said, you remember, they call me Auntie Marcia, how you moved out the chairs and the tables and you let us dance in your living room and you cook Jamaican food for us. And I'm listening to, you're a community man. You're a community man. And so this is the kind of thing you want to do for St. George South.
Definitely want to see it happening, because, it leaves a gaping hole when these passions aren't filled, when the opportunities aren't provided for younger minds to keep them employed, to continuously develop their skills, their social skills, their coordination skills, even with the arts and stuff. And when it's not there, then we create this void within our communities where the youth are unable to connect, or they don't feel as though they belong. They're just in a mist of not connecting to how to evolve to become their true selves. So each community must have team leaders to help make sure that these things actually do happen. And so these dance classes, they continued in my house for a while, dance and drum classes, but my flooring could not take it. So I started writing to the vocational training board, because the vocational foundation has started running the skills training started running in one of the abandoned schools that was just a hurricane shelter. And when I was growing up, that abandoned school, St. Luke's Girls School, was an essential meeting spot for us. We played table tennis in there. We had dancing in there. So we had quite a bit of things that would happen in there. But when the training board took over the school, that ceased to a degree. So there was hardly any access to it. So I remember writing them to ask them if they'll give us an opportunity to come in and have these classes for the young people in the school, which had wooden floors and was most appropriate for it. But we were declined. And when we were declined, I got so angry, because the classes were getting bigger. The children were getting very passionate and they were interested. But I couldn't accommodate them in my home anymore. And so I had to actually literally end the class, because we couldn't put them to dance on the outside, because there's no facilities in our neighborhood. So that's really just one personal experience in terms of how I see our communities being failed and not properly represented, which then creates a gap for the youth to be connected to their source of empowerment and inspiration and education through community development.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And the truth is, guys, I am totally believing this man. And why I'm believing him, because Everton or Hero, I prefer Hero.
Mhm.
Hero, it was somebody who worked in a community. I'm from Jamaica. And
Mhm.
I hasten to tell everybody I'm from a ghetto. I'm from Central Village, Big Lane. Okay,
Yep.
that's me. All right. And I have no shame about that. But it took a hero to come into the community to offer theater classes and all
Mhm.
these different things to help me to come out of it so that I
Mhm.
didn't become a statistic and started to
Mhm.
having, all the children end up in jail and gangs and so on, like the other people around me. So really, I mean, I am totally into what you're saying right now, because when I look at Barbados, Hero,
Mhm.
Barbados needs people like you in the communities, because that is what, it's not staying far and throwing money at it and locking
Right.
up these young people. What if
Right.
somebody did that to my family? I wouldn't be here now. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be here as a little girl. That's what we were. We were family. What was it? What do you think our family business was in that community? Come on now, Hero. What do you
What I
think?
think your family business, you tell me.
You know what?
Don't let me speculate.
But the point
Uh-huh.
is, though, the point
Mhm.
is that someone like a hero came into the community
Right.
and changed my life. And so
Right.
I believe, I totally am sold on what you're saying. Somebody here is saying this is amazing. Rhea Stewart is saying the public really needs to sit and listen to these people
Yes.
before writing them off as not capable, because that's the impression that
Mhm.
is given about third party candidates, that they're not
Right.
capable. Oh, don't pay them any mind. They're whatever, they're doing this for this, they want fame, they want,
Mhm.
they're just not capable, not up to it. But I
Yeah,
am.
if you want fame, the easiest thing to do would be to join one of the standard parties. It's easier to get fame that way because they have an infrastructure that's over 50 years old. And that infrastructure will support the candidates in ways that the smaller parties can't. So
Right.
fame is when the what we call the third parties or the younger parties is basically a lot of people who have a heart of stone, and it's a lot of core work that has to be done that's already done for them in the other established parties. So once a person decides to join an alternative party or a newer party, they're already committing to harder work than if they were to join one of the other parties and become a candidate then.
Mhm.
So the journey through politics is very rewarding. And I was really upset over the last few weeks because I keep hearing politics being referred to as the silly season. And not because I'm, being picky or anything. I just felt as though, we don't need to be insulted anymore as a people. We really don't need to be more. Silly season is not what the people are. The people aren't the silly ones. And if you're saying that the politicians are the ones that are promoting the silliness and calling it silly season, then what are we saying? We're looking for silly people to manage our affairs. Is that what we're saying? It just did not seem right coming from leaders to keep
Mhm.
referencing this
Mhm.
very important time of selecting the administration of a country that's
Mhm.
responsible for the growth and development of the little people, to be
Mhm.
referring to it as a silly season. Now, clearly, some things have happened over the years. I see a question here, Marcy. I don't know if I'm allowed to answer your question.
Yes,
Siri,
no,
do
no,
you
no,
believe
go right ahead, because
that?
and let me just remind. I wanted to remind them, because I think people are so caught up or so inspired by
Yeah,
your story and how and your intention. There's such a purity that is coming out of you,
right.
and so
Appreciate
I
that.
don't think that people are asking. They're just caught up in it. Now,
Yeah.
can you please remember, if you have any questions, this is a good time to
Mhm.
ask your questions, guys. If you are watching from my personal Facebook page, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see your questions. You would need to go to the Marcia Week Show. Just type in, search at the Marcia Week Show, and watch from there. All right, so that
So,
I'll be able to answer, to ask the questions that you have. Okay, so go to
so
the Marcia Week Show so we can see. So go ahead, Hero.
Yeah, so Mr. Hoyt is asking, if I believe that MPs should be ministers. And my heart is saying no, Mr. Hoyt. MPs should be representatives of the people, and they should be focused on literally ensuring that the citizens are getting every single opportunity necessary. The citizens within that constituency, they should be getting every opportunity necessary to become their best selves. So MPs, in my opinion, should be organizers of community efforts. And so you have several different community organizations, and your MP should literally become the organizer and pulling all of the leaders of those organizations together to ensure that each community in the constituency is getting access to the resources that they need, getting access to the information that's required, getting access to the government's property if necessary for them to put on a show like Marcia. If they need to put on a show but can't get access to or can't raise the funds to rent a facility. So MPs will fill those gaps. Ministers then is on another hand, could be coming from competent individuals within the specific ministry. But that's all a part of thinking about how to change and transition our political system. And unfortunately, the people who are in it, the people who are the administrators, unfortunately, would not be the ones to change the structure for it to be more beneficial to the communities. So it's in my estimation, I think one of the reasons why I got involved in politics is to destroy the system that it is right now and try to create a new system that is more holistic for the people.
Wow, awesome. Somebody says here, see Shamo McConan Roach. He says, it's a Facebook friend of mine, actually. Welcome, sir. He says, honest response, brother, hero, very good. And Wayne Hoyt is following up with a question. He says, thank you. And if your party is elected, will you ensure that no MP is a minister and move the law to reflect the change?
I can't ensure that, Mr. Hoyt. I can make my opinions heard. I am not the leader of the party, and therefore those are different things that I cannot speak on and say definitively that I would make it happen. That would be me speaking out of term. But I do know that it would be something that I would want to see happen, because I believe it's essential to have those types of structural changes to a system that seemingly not being able to fulfill at the speed that it needs to fulfill for the well-being of the community. So I'm not saying it's not working. I don't want to be a total pessimist and say the system isn't working. The system is severely flawed and could be improved. I feel as though it's not working as efficient as it should be or could be working in the best interest of the people.
Thank you so much for that. But what about yourself? If you get you win your seat at St. George South, right? Am I right?
Yes, St. George South, correct.
St. George South. So, guys, this is Hero. If you're just joining us, this is Everton Halligan, and he is a candidate for St. George South. And this man has such a wonderful heart and a love for the people in the community. And you could tell, I could tell, you could pick that up from people. And this is the second time we're speaking, and I am just bowled over by just your heart for people. And so if you're watching, we need you to share, guys, share the live. This is the kind of thing that we want to see happen, where we hear and not somebody up there shouting at you. We can have a conversation, ask our questions, right? I love it. And get to know the people. Know the people. So what about yourself? If you were, when you win your seat, let's be positive. When you win your seat in St. George South, Mr. Halligan, and you're given that opportunity possibly to be a minister, will you take it versus being being the representative of the people of St. George South? Will you take it?
My first priority would be representation, not ministry. And if it is that our system is still in that way, like if our party was to win the government and the leaders would ask me to take on a ministry, I would want to comply. but I would also want to make my decision, my perspective known, because I believe it would take some time to go about and make these types of changes. But what I see, the fracture that I see in communities and constituencies, is way more important for me than becoming a minister. Way more important.
Yeah, because a lot of the representatives are supposed to, be taking care of the community. Like, for example, here in St. Philip North. I mean, where am I? Yeah, St. Philip South. I'm sorry. I've never seen my representative. I don't even know. I've seen him on TV, and somebody pointed him out to me. I don't know I've never seen him in real life. And a lot of times it's because they get caught up. They have their own businesses, and then they're a minister. So what time would they have to even do anything in the community? Now, I want to go ahead, Hiro. You have a point.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. It just seems like it's a burden. It would be too much. The other thing that I wanted to follow up on, because you did mention it, we didn't get to talk too much about it, but I wanted to back up a little bit regarding the people that we've worked with over the last few months in terms of helping them to become well when they were battled or challenged with dealing with COVID. And we did spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people and sharing information with a lot of people so that they can work hard at helping to become well in the midst of dealing with COVID. And COVID is real. COVID is creating some challenges for quite a few people. Unfortunately, the natural health community has been left out of the solution orientation for that. And so what we have been doing is working closely with our customers and with our people. They would normally call us and explain their situation to us, and we would normally encourage them to start using their fruits and their vegetables and the herbs that their grandmother used to use. Like one of the most efficient one would be the thyme tea, which most people have thyme at home. They can start using thyme if they're having respiratory issues. And so, we've been really successful in helping people on that journey so that they don't become sick and become unwell when they're battling with the COVID situation. So I just wanted to touch on that because you did bring it up, but you can go right ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, right. Well, I want to know specifically, what are you going to do for St. George South? So we know that, I'm sure the community work is going to continue with the arts in the community and health and education. But give us some other tangible areas that you believe that you want to tackle.
I want to listen first and know and understand what's going on with the hearts of the people and what they want. Because I've canvassed and you hear the same stories. And so I want to be able to hear those stories, understand those stories, and then craft a plan from the bottom up. So making sure that I can meet with people and discuss the future. I think short-term fixes can be problematic. And some of the core issues that we have need to be addressed. And I like to reference the 7 principles of Kwanzaa as a bedrock, a foundation that I can draw on to help to build out community. So meeting with the leaders within communities is essential for me. I somehow visualize the ability to create these templates, these I call them templates, but I mean to say these groups of leaders within communities that would help to then scout and source the issues in the communities and then go about trying to resolve them from a root up perspective rather than from a top down perspective. Like what you just said, not necessarily just throwing money at everything, but actually engaging people so that they can understand the fundamentals of how things are done so that when we get it done, they're not mistaken as to how it was done. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like still people who vote for a BLP candidate from 20 years ago when they fixed the road. But the real reason the road was fixed, is a little bit more than just the candidate fixing the road. It's your money that's being used, your taxes that's
Right.
being used. So fundamental core stuff, but not just throwing things on people and just saying, I did this or I did that, because the praise is just silly in some instances. But actually saying, here's how, and you pull committees together from the communities to help oversee how these things are implemented, so that we can bring the village along with understanding of how things are being done, so that they know what needs to be done, how to agitate in the future to get things done. The communities, the young people are at my heart, the youth. I watch them, I see them, I see them, I see their health fall into the wayside. I see them and I can see in a year or 2 or 5, they're going to be diabetic. I can see the changes in their physical structure that lets me know that this young man right here is going to be a diabetic before he reaches 25. So there's the interventions on many different levels is what community needs, not necessarily just roads and streetlights and those kind of infrastructural changes, which is what they need, but intervention to the soul and to the core of young people is important then to then reshape their focus, but then put them on a trajectory for excellence. So how, with that, innovation comes. Because if the youth feel like they belong to the community, and if they are given guidance because the structure is in place for them to follow through, to be guided, then they will have enough of that innovative energy to be the creators that we need, to be the inventors that we need, to provide the foundation development that we need. But it will not happen if after school they're kicked out of school or they leave school, but now have to find their way around, not sure which way to turn, which I can tell you one of my personal stories. I was kicked out of school when I was 15 years old, had no clue what to do next, and basically because I wasn't making the grades. I wasn't a bad child. I wasn't fighting a lot and stuff like that. I just wasn't making the grades and just wasn't feeling school, And when I got kicked out of school, I had no idea what to do. There was no follow-up with me from the school. There was no follow-up from the Ministry of Education. So if my father, which he is the parent he is, and I appreciate him on many different levels, he had to sit and say to me, but I know that there are a lot of children in my community, there are a lot of people in my community who don't have the father that I have, or the mother that I have. But he sat down and gave me the tough love. And he said, and it wasn't like instructive step by step. It was just listen. Because I remember just lying in bed, being depressed and unsure about what to do next. 15 years old, my entire school life just went down the drain. What do I do next? I don't have a paper to my name. What do I do next? He just sat on the bed after he left home for like 3 days and didn't return because he heard I got kicked out of school. And the third day he returned, it was like he sat on the bed next to me. He said, well, you have to get up and look for work, right? But even that, I didn't know how, where, but I was happy that he didn't take my head off. And that I was able then to get up and start doing something. I'm just saying that there are a lot of children, a lot of youth, a lot of young people in the community who are not in that position to have that type of inspiration. As little as it was at that time to me, it was enough to get me going. So then that made me get up and start doing things. But the point that I was trying to make though is that I could have slipped through the cracks when I got kicked out of school. The infrastructure wasn't there to catch me, to tell me what to do next and how, and where to go next, and who to.
So is that what you want to do for St. George South? Is this part of what you want to do to provide that infrastructure, giving people a second chance?
The safety net. And the safety net must be provided with a structured community groups that know that they're not just here to coach soccer, but if you're coaching soccer, you have to bring in a coach to look at mental health. You have to bring in a coach to look at health and wellness. You have to bring a holistic approach to everything that you're doing. But it's clear that people aren't going to just change what they know unless they're educated to change to something that they didn't know. I probably
So
fumbled with that a bit.
what I'm getting from you is, it's and this is what happened last night with the other two APP candidates that were on. There was a freshness because we're now, I mean, I haven't, and the solutions, Barbados people as well, and tonight from Alex, you guys are not just talking about fixing a road and fixing a light, or, you want to develop the people in the community as whole beings. And I think that is very different. And let me say, we're not hearing it from a lot of the MPs in the traditional parties, because we don't get to sit down and talk like this. I'm sure that there are many in there who are like that. But I have to say that I'm totally impressed with these female candidates.
Thank you, Marcia. But I went on my block the other day with the young men, and I sat for a little bit. And one of the gentlemen that was there, who's a more progressive thinker, he's the barber on the block, he said to me that the MP came through and put 2 bottles of liquor on the table and left. And he felt so disgusted and embarrassed by it. He felt like he was, just slapped in the face. But of course, people on the block were happy they had something to drink. It's good to have a good time. It's good to, just be with your friends and de-stress, etc. But when you're looking at the social dilemma that we're in, the crisis that we're in, the crisis with loss of jobs, loss of mental health challenges, the basic domestic violence issues that goes on within our homes, children not getting access to their parents to help them grow and develop because their parents aren't growing and developing. And you create a culture that further this social devolution. As an administrative leader is a big challenge for me. So in coming on the block and just dropping some bottles to continue a process without something to elevate, stimulate, motivate, encourage, inspire, some workshop to transform a mind, a thought, something in parenting, something in respect for women, respect for others, something of substance, so that these young men then would have something else to think about. We're just going to pull up on blocks and drop bottles of alcohol. This is where we're at. And so this furthers a mindset that, so it kind of fuels a fire that really literally destroys the core of the nation. Because then, as Doris is saying here, the idea that if you're running, you got to buy drinks. If you're running, you got to pay bills. If you're running, you want my vote, you got to do this. This is what they have brought, the political class have brought upon themselves. Because at the root of what their needs are, it's the power, the vote, but not necessarily the will or the want to see the development of the community. And so it's a thin line. It's a very, very thin line, because if you want to see the development of the community, many of the things that's done now on a national scale, even by known politicians, would not, should not, and could not be done. So ultimately, I understand why people would say that they don't trust politicians or trust politics or they're not voting. I understand, because I've been there. But I want to encourage you who are listening to know that the only way to change it is to get involved and make your vote count to destroying it, because we have to destroy it. I've heard the stories. I've been on the campaign trail. I've heard the stories about the amount of money that's being dumped into communities. I've heard the stories about the plans that are made prior to elections to create opportunities just for the vote. And I've heard all the stories and I've seen it. There is truth to a lot of it, you
Mhm.
know. But this is the dirty practice, as Colin is saying here, a vote buying. But it's more than just vote buying. It's creating a social environment that's unstable
Yes.
and
Yes.
creating deficiencies within the psychology of the
Mhm.
youth who are now growing and learning that this abnormality is supposed to be normal.
Normal, yeah, that's the thing, and it leaves me, I mean, to think that, in our community here, I don't know if you saw the video that was being passed around where there was a convenience store, and two young men went in and they robbed a convenience store. And that's just a few houses down, because we were, a family member of mine was at the convenience store the Wednesday night, and they robbed it the Thursday. And I started to call around people in the community, and I said, listen, this is an opportunity for us all to come together and do something for our young men.
Mhm.
And I think that's something, listening to you, I can understand why you would be involved in politics, because your heart, you're for the community. You want to see that change. You want to see the change in the young people. You want them to have that second chance. You're about developing the community, because look at what has happened. We're in COVID, and look at what's happening. So tell me about St. George North.
South,
How
south,
South, I'm
St.
sorry,
George South.
St. George South, 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 St. George South. Talk to me about the young people there. Do you know the population of young people that you have there?
Uh,
Do you have the demographics?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in my head, though. I have it isolated on a file. I just don't keep the numbers in my head. I prefer to just
Mhm.
go look at the file. But yes, it's a pretty big demographic as well. I think it was just like, you know what? Don't let me think, because I don't remember it offhand. You know, but there is a lot of young people, a
Mhm.
whole lot,
Mhm.
and the reality isn't different in St. George South from St. George North from St. John. I mean, this is a
Mhm.
national issue, and we are a really
Right.
small island, to be quite honest with you. And the concerns are pretty much the same across the constituencies. You know, in my neighborhood, in the neighborhoods around me, Draxall, Bites Mill, Allerton, Dash Valley, those neighborhoods, we are still dealing with the same thing: high unemployment, apathy, not sure what the next step is going to be, literally just trying to create opportunities out of nothing, and not having enough resources or resource people to help
Mhm.
make sure that what you do can be effective enough. And so, just like a cancer, if I may say it, you
Mhm.
know, these cells that get together in the body and start to create chaos in a particular organ that they're supposed to be living in. This is kind of what's happening to a degree within some of our communities, where, you know, young people don't feel as though they belong, and because they don't feel as though they belong,
Mhm.
they, you know, the behavior sometimes, or the way they respond to situations, because they haven't been nurtured well enough to respond favorably. You know, so this is generally what's happening across Barbados and
Mhm.
its itself.
Right. Wow. The candidates for in APP. How many candidates do you have in the party? Um,
We have about 20 candidates now across
mhm,
Barbados,
mhm,
almost touching every parish. There are one or two parishes that are not touched.
mhm,
We're a group of very strong minded people, with the intention to make waves across Barbados, whether we win these elections or not. Because I think what is clear to us in the new parties is that we have to leave a legacy. We have to leave a
mhm,
legacy for those young people who are coming behind, who want to see something different from this fighting that goes on to find the administration that will be best serving the interest of the nation. We
mhm,
want to see politics practiced differently. We want to not be a part of that mudslinging that's happening right now, and that will happen until the 19th. We want to be part of the encouragement, part of the empowerment, and part of the group of people who would bring back the voters to the voting booth, because we're losing a large percentage of voters who are literally dissatisfied with the process because they say there's no difference between one of the other major parties, and they don't know that people are going to give the newer parties the vote. So if you're listening, you're on the fence, and you're dissatisfied with what's been happening for a while now, then your best option will be to allow for a new entity to evolve and be a part of the democracy in such a way that can actually serve the interests of the people a little bit different from how it's being practiced right now. Because one thing is for sure, we are tired and sick and tired of the two known entities behaving the way they do, throwing mud at each other and then expecting the youth to see it and think of it like it's something that is righteous or something that you're supposed to do. So even the new political players who come on the field, they just continue that journey in those two organizations. They continue doing the same thing because that's how it's done in those organizations. This is how they maintain their following. This is how they capture the vote. So they're just going to do it just to see. There is a way in which you can criticize policy and you can criticize the things that's happening around you, because it is a democracy and critique is essential. It needs to happen. And the more people who bring themselves back into the process of democracy, the more people who come back to voting and voting for newer entities are getting more involved in democracy, and they're literally regaining that right or exercising that right to be critical of policies that don't serve their best interests. And so if you're on the fence and you're listening, it's time to look at one of the newer parties and look at the candidates from the APP for sure, because I think we have a pretty good slate of candidates. I know we have a pretty good slate of candidates, and we have phenomenal leadership. We watch Joseph Atherley battle as a lone ranger in the opposition, and I think he did an awesome job on behalf of the people. He made a bold move, and some may say as not a righteous move, but it was a righteous move to protect democracy. And he stood up firm and long and did what he had to do for the time that he was the opposition leader. And I don't know what would have happened if we didn't have a voice, even though it wasn't given, in my estimation, as much prominence as it should have been given. I don't know what would happen if we didn't have a voice. So then we have the most honorable Lynette Eastman as well, who is also an excellent leader. She spearheaded single-handedly to a large degree with a group of us, led the UPP to a point of recognition in Barbados in a very short period of time. We put out excellent policies and manifestos on behalf of the people. And so with the combination of the Joseph Atherley and Lynette Eastman, I want people to feel like, people feel as though only one person in Barbados can run this country now. And that is so far away from the truth. It's amazing that educated people would continue to think this way. And so we have Lynette Eastman, who has been phenomenal in her ministry when she was a minister, very well respected, very hardworking, and very efficient person. And so with a team like that, I don't see how we wouldn't be able to get Barbados back on the right footing.
Wow, excellent. And I think your presentation of your candidates, is that coming up? When is that? Because I'm seeing they say, oh, but we don't hear anything about the third candidates, the third parties, because we don't, because the media. It's not focused. It's like they have eyes for these traditional parties. So what's happening? Are you going to have is there like an event?
We have a candidate launch that's coming on Sunday, where you would get a chance to hear from our candidates, their impassioned plea. You would hear their real hard stories that they have, and you would hear some of the plans that they have as well for their constituencies. And so on Sunday coming is where we will have a virtual launch. So you don't have to go anywhere. You can sit at home and you can watch our launch from at home. So you just need to stay tuned to the Marcia Week Show. I'm hoping that you will be looking at that. And of course, all the candidates will be streaming it as well. So if you can like my page, Everton Halligan, and you'll
Mhm.
be able to follow that on Sunday so you can get to hear a little bit more
Mhm.
about the candidates that we have put forward in this election. And it's a work in progress. We are happy to be able to walk this walk, talk this talk, and be
Mhm.
a part of this historical moment in our society.
Mhm.
The cost of living is something that's endemic. It's been ongoing for a long period of time now. The policies that we are crafting would help to address some of the cost of living. I know we looked at the importation, because importation and the we call the taxes at the port, the duties,
Mhm.
help to push that up a lot. And then a lot of how the society is structured right now. So in our policies as they come out, you would have a little bit more to hear about that, Wayne. I don't have that information to hand right now that I can pull it off the top of my head. But we've looked at the cost of living. We've looked at economic enfranchisement. We've looked at revamping the new economy as well. And so that manifesto will be out soon to have more in-depth reading. I don't want to preempt it, Wayne, and so just give us a chance to get that out there.
And as you're saying that, I want to just, because I myself, I'm saying, why don't you guys have this out as yet, and so on. And,
Mhm.
my husband has to, he reminds me, but Marcia, remember that, the time frame that is given, this is unusual. It's a snap election, and there's
Yep.
COVID, and there are all these different things. So sometimes we're too hard on the third parties. Remember, the others have the handle, right? So their manifesto is going to be out, their posters are going to be up. People said to me, I'm in my community and I don't see any third parties
Mhm.
poster up, but try to remember, hold a minute.
Yeah, yeah,
Hold
it's
a
a
minute.
lot. You have two parties that have over 50 years of experience and infrastructure and funding to do these things, and so I appreciate the public for wanting more from us. But truthfully, we need to be realistic and understand how this works. And this, again, back to my issue, many of our constituents don't know how basic things work within government and within political parties unless they're actively engaged in it. And so, unfortunately, many MPs swindle or skew the perspective of how things are supposed to happen or how things happen. So it literally leaves our people not only miseducated about it, but they're really unclear. Like, it's okay for you to, these major parties to come around and dump a lot of money around election times. Well, whose money is it? Where is the money coming from? Who's
Mhm.
funding it? And what happens when contracts have to be given then to satisfy that money that was taken? And so who are going to end up paying the bulk of the taxes to fix to restore this resources that's being given in some contracts that they're paying out 3 and 4 times the amount. So, a fixed election date is something that we have discussed, and it's something that we have talked about from even our last manifesto, our last election, because it helps for us to plan better and strategize better, and it gives even the alternative parties or the opposition parties an opportunity to craft better policies,
Right.
because it's not about just being against or rivaling each other. Really, what the rival is how do we craft better policies continually so that the citizens become the ultimate beneficiary of our activism in politics. So, our
Mhm.
activism in politics has nothing to do with you wanting to be in power, but more to do with what you want to offer to the development of the people within the communities. But if it has to do with you maintaining and staying in power, then we know just as much as this snap election is that there's a skewed perspective of what leadership is and what running a country is supposed to be about.
Mm. Excellent, excellent. Well, we're coming almost. We just have a few, just a few minutes left. 2 minutes left, Mr. Holligan, and I'm telling you, you schooled us tonight about heart and integrity and motivation and inspiration. You brought so much inspiration to us You know, those of us who sit back and say, what they're running, what they want out of this now, you know. But there's just such a purity that is coming through, and that's wonderful. You know, what do you want to say to the people of St. George South? What's your final words to the people of St. George South? What would you say if they're right
I,
here in
I,
front of you? What did you say?
I would say that from looking at the trajectory that we're on as a nation, there's going to be some really tough times ahead. And the only way that we can literally thrive and survive in those tough times ahead is for community resilience to actually be enforced. So basically, we have to literally depend on each other. And depending on each other is what will build the resilience. To depend on each other, we need to be better organized. To be better organized, we need to remove some of that power that we give to MPs and we give to government officials, and recognize that we have to be a part of the solutions that we find within our communities. And the MPs are there to ensure that when those solutions come, that they can be actioned. So what I would want to say to you is, don't be fooled by being offered jobs in government, because there will be no more government jobs to be offered. Don't be fooled about, getting all this big tax breaks and all that stuff, because just as they did the last 3 years, they'll give it here and then they'll take it over there. So it ends up being just, I guess, an Indian giver, as some people will call it. Just don't be fooled about the fancy talk and the motorcades and the money that's going to be dumped into your constituency, because when the 19th is passed and you now have to start looking to deal with the fallout that will come as a result of the snap elections, because even my youngest cousin, who is not even interested in politics in any way, can look at me and say to me, but everybody know the reason why they call the elections is because things gonna get hard. They're gonna make things harder for me. That's why they call elections now, so that we can forget by the time voting comes around. So as many people who are calling it like this big move, it's really a very basic move. And so I would say to the people in St. George South, be wary that the motor kids driving through, the money, the red shirts, the music, the yellow shirts, the music, don't get caught up. At the end of the day, you need somebody who's going to sit with you, strategize with you, train you, organize workshops for you, make sure that you are prepared and equipped within communities to feed yourself and to develop businesses that you can then sell to each other in the surrounding constituencies. And in order to do that, you need somebody who's going to be on the ground, committed to ensure that you can grow and develop from the root up, and don't fall for the trick of short-term aggrandizement.
Oh boy, I tell you, you're schooling us. And someone here is saying, Mr. He says, "I'm sorry, I'm not in your constituency. You would get my vote." I tell you, you would get my vote now. And
Thank you, Mr. Hoy.
I was one of those who said I wasn't going to vote because I'm tired of it. I go and I stand up in the hot sun, and I don't see you. You don't come around, and I was tired of it. But you know what? I honestly, because I was totally touched. Sincerely touched, I should say, by what you presented, and the purity of your heart shone through. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Halligan, for being on. And we would on Sunday, viewers, you'll be able to see all the candidates, the APP candidates, on Sunday. All right. And I think the time is going to be 7:30, and it will be on this platform and on other platforms. And whenever you see anything with third parties, share it.
Yes.
Share it, because they do not have the same, they're not working access to the financing and the resources and the years that, over the years they've built up structures. They don't have that.
Which is part of the problem. Which is part of the problem, because they're entrenched in doing things a particular way that needs to change, and they're not going to change it because it has brought success for them over a period of time.
Yes, and someone is saying it was refreshing, and that's what happened last
Thank
night.
you, Rhea.
Yes, as well with all the Solutions Barbados, the app, and tonight we had Beijing Free Party and got so much information from Alex Mitchell, and his heart came through wanting to help the people of St. Michael South. And here we have Hero representing St. George South, and just talking just from his heart, and he just wants to listen, not making these big promises to the people,
Nope.
but sincerely wanting to help. Well, thank you so much for being here. And
You're welcome.
tomorrow we're going to be on again with more candidates, some Solutions Barbados. Thank you, Hero. God bless you. I know you have
Thank
to
you.
go. Lots of things to
Thank
do.
you.
We're going to close now. Thank you so much. But we want to ask you to share this live, share the live, and so that people will get to meet the candidates and not just shouting out the things that they're going to do or the things that they did. But you got to meet this man tonight. You got to meet Alex. You got to understand Alex and understand what is his motivation. And that is what we want to use the show to produce, to the people, to bring to the people. So join me again tomorrow. We have more third parties coming your way, and we just every night we're going to get inspired because it's so refreshing, guys. So refreshing. God bless you all. Stay safe. Stay safe. They got this virus thing out there. Stay safe. Take care of your families. All the best, guys, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.